lot is being said about the price of the new iPhone 16. Some say that South Africans are being ripped off, and others says that it's cheaper to fly to the US and buy it there than in South Africa. What's going on? The first thing to say is to make sure that your YouTube source is comparing apples with apples, pun intended. There's more than one version of the 16 and the prices differ. The 128GB version sells for $26,499, up to the 1TB version selling for almost 40,000 Rand. The Pro Max models are more expensive. If you're comparing apples with Samsungs, and some would say you cannot, just make sure the comparisons line up. The flagship Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra 256GB goes for about $22,600. But are the iPhones relatively more expensive in South Africa? One online comparison that I saw is for the 16 Pro Max. The 256GB model sells for $31,799 in South Africa, but for $1,199 in the US. Now, the Rand has been appreciating recently, so at 17.25 Rand per dollar, that should be 20,682 Rands. The slightly more than 11,000 Rand difference consists of a number of things. For this, I don't have a true breakdown, but one can guess at the different parts. There is a 7% customs duty and a 15% VAT, and that accounts for around 4,500 Rands of the difference. Importers pay insurance and freight and add their retail margin. So it looks like you can save a few thousand Rands by buying directly on the Apple website and shipping via a global shopping service. The internet says the Apple Global Warranty should sort you out for recalls and major repairs under warranty, but I'm not guaranteeing anything. Keep in mind the customs duty amount may vary a bit depending on the selling price that it's levied on, and it may involve waiting a bit for the shipping, but the savings can be worth it. So is it cheaper to fly to the US to buy it? Not for the smaller, cheaper models. The cheapest flight that I could find was around 16,000 Rands. If you're buying the 16 Pro Max 1TB model, the difference between the South African price and the dollar price times the exchange rate might just cover the flight. That assumes you have a visa, are not staying over, not having a coffee, or buying anything else. It's possible to make more price comparisons of iPhones with Samsungs in South Africa, of iPhones with Samsungs in the US, etc. The short story is that Apple products are relatively more expensive, and it's been this way for some time. Like some YouTubers, you can say that this is unfair, or you can say it's simply the premium you're willing to pay for the device and its whole software ecosystem. Or it's simply the price of a status symbol and conspicuous consumption. My thrifty economist advice is to think hard about whether you really need to spend the monthly income of the average South African on a phone. Thank you for tuning in to this week's edition of Economics Weekly with me, Waldo Krugell. Drop a comment or a question below and join me again for next week's episode when we look at the news that makes our economy tick.